Welcome back to the Create Tomorrow live stream. And yes, it's really live. As you just saw, we also had some technical difficulties, but we're back. And we also are going to speak to someone from VolkerWessels Telecom. And it's not Knera. No, it's Jaap Hulshoff. Jaap, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Great. That was a little bit of a small adventure. Good to see you. Also good to hear you.
Yeah, thanks.
How are you? How is your day?
Yeah. We had a pretty hectical day. We needed to ship a lot of sensors out today. So we've been screwing the sensors in up until like 10 or 15 minutes ago. And we could ship them just before the postman was here. So that was went quite well.
Okay, wow. You had a few challenges of your own, if I can hear that. Have you also been in contact with the students already?
Yeah, just a little bit. We had some problems connecting to them. Mm-hmm. So we've been in touch with the students, with a team of 4 from VolkerWessels Telecom. So I didn't speak to one of the colleagues of one of the students myself, but I believe 3 of the other colleagues of mine did speak to them. So
all right.
Unfortunately, I couldn't reach one of them myself.
No, you were busy with other things.
Yeah, also, I was behind my laptop all the time, but didn't get any questions through the portal.
Okay, well, good. It's nice to have a little bit of a point of view of how it is to have a hectic day at VolkerWessels Telecom. Yeah. But tell us how you got involved with Create Tomorrow, and what are your expectations of the case that you?
Well, we as a VolkerWessels and also VolkerWessels Telecom, we participate in events like this every year because we think it's important to get in touch with students, especially because they have a bright and new view upon topics that we are working on. So our expectations are to get a lot of new ideas, to get a lot of creative ideas, and maybe some new innovations that we can use to sort out the problems that we are working on in smart cities.
Great. And you already said students can really have like a new perspective or a new view, but can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like what is, for example, a concrete example of that?
Well, if you look at the, for example, our case was to look at the infrastructure within smart cities. If we look at the solutions that we are building also within Heerde, that's the subsidiary I'm working in, we also always think about our smartphone. I believe that, well, almost all of the students also have their smartphone. But when we are working on solutions, we tend to get into like a tunnel vision. And because we're working on the solutions and on the problems like every day, if you're not coming from the telecoms market or the IoT market, you get into those problems or the topics that we are working on. We hope that the students have a new view or a bright view upon the things that are possible without using your phone. So that's basically what we try to get back from the students today, is to help us sort the problems that we are facing right now and maybe in the future without going into the solutions that we are already working on for maybe 5, 10 or maybe 20 years already.
Yeah, so you're really challenging the students to think outside of the box.
Yeah, certainly.
But that's quite a difficult challenge to ask them to not use the normal devices like your smartphone or your laptop or your tablets. Why is it so important? Why is it so important to look for solutions that are not using these devices?
Well, if you look at the current society where everybody has their iPhone, maybe if you sit on a terrace, I know that's quite difficult in these days during Corona, but when we used to sit on the terrace with a couple of friends, if you look at the group, a lot of times people are only looking at their smartphone instead of talking to each other. So we want to make sure that the future inhabitants of a city stay socially connected without that they are connected without having to look at their phone. So the infrastructure needs to facilitate our quality of life without being noticed by the users. So we need an infrastructure that is reliable, it's fast, and it's also there for 24/7 without being noticed and without needing to pay attention to it all the time, because that, of course, uses our time, our energy, and it causes also problems like that we're not talking to each other anymore, like directly, but only through our phone or through apps.
Yeah, meanwhile, you're getting a few apps.
Yeah, also, yeah.
No, that sounds fascinating, yeah. Yeah, that's a really fascinating case, I can imagine, for the students to work with. You mentioned COVID-19, Corona. How has this impacted your business at VolkerWessels Telecom?
Well, quite a lot. If you look at the current IoT business, it was really based upon like smart waste solutions, like smart bins. It's because now it's about smart mobility, and a lot of the parties that are working in the IoT ecosystem moved to COVID-19 solutions in a matter of weeks, months. And it's quite fascinating to see how much apps there are launched, how many devices are being developed in a really short time. So it has a major impact on our daily business. And actually, we are also working on several Corona solutions, or to prevent Corona, of course. For example, solutions that say how many occupants there are in an office building or in a certain room in an office, so that we can notice our colleagues, okay, the building is almost full, or maybe you are having a meeting with too many people in a certain room. We're also working on a smart card. So we're using cards to enter a building, like for to open the doors. But those smart cards can also be used to scan the surrounding for other cards. So you know when you are too close to somebody else. And in that case, the card can give a beep or maybe vibrate, so that you know that you are too close to another person. And those are all solutions without having to use your phone, because if you need to use your phone for those kind of measures, then you're constantly busy with your phone. And what we don't want to do is distract people from their work or their social life, to have them to prevent them getting too close to other people, or to have them get them into trouble because of the COVID-19 virus.
Interesting. I think it's really interesting to hear how you, as a telecom company, even have a social mission in which you want to connect people without actually using the connecting devices. Let's talk about, or let's finish off with implementation, because if the students will find these solutions without using the devices, of course, at this moment, we're all very used to using the devices. So how would you implement that, or how would you help people switch?
Well, that's a quite difficult question. To answer your first question, how would we implement this? We have, how do you call it? An area within Eindhoven. It's called Stripe S. It's our living lab as VolkerWessels, but also as VolkerWessels Telecoms. And what we have done there in the past, and what we want to do also with the students that maybe win, is to see if we can implement the solution they came up with on Stripe S. As I told, it is a living lab. So they actually live, work people over there. The area is like 20 hectares big. So it's quite a big living lab. So we can test there at a pretty large scale. And of course, when the solution is successful, we can see if we can do a major rollout in a certain city or maybe in a certain region. Your second question is, how do you do that after some kind of a pilot phase? What you need to do is explain people what your solution is. They need to be enthusiastic about it, because I don't believe myself in forcing people to use certain apps or devices to prevent them to get corona, for example. So you need to have to make all the stakeholders aware, and those stakeholders can be like local authorities, companies, people who live there, work there, about the added value of a certain solution, so that they see the value and want to implement it themselves instead of pushing it to implement something.
Yeah, so really creating ownership over a solution.
Yeah.
From various stakeholders. Okay, great. Well, may the best win tonight. I'm sure you're going to get some great results and some great cases. Very excited to hear them later on. And we hope to see you back tonight. And
Certainly
maybe you
will.
have a small break for yourself now as well.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Good luck to all the students.
Yes, thank you, Jaap. Bye-bye.
Okay.
See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.